guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm setting up my February bullet journal and I'm really excited about this month's theme, lychees. It's such a fun and vibrant theme while also allowing me to keep with a typical Valentine's color palette. So let's just jump right into it. For my cover page, I wanted it to feel immediately soft, sweet, and abundant, almost like you've opened the journal and stepped into a little fruit market moment. I sketched out a cluster of lychees hanging from a branch, and instead of outlining everything with a black fine liner like I typically do, I focused more on building up colors in layers. I really wanted to let the reds and pinks speak for themselves and see what would happen if I relied more on color and layering instead of heavy line work. It felt scary, but also really freeing. I'm starting with a very pale yellow to give it that warm foundation, and I'll later go back in with the light pinks and peaches, and then slowly deepen the reds, especially toward the shadow areas. February is usually all reds and pinks and hearts, very Valentine's coded. But I wanted to do something that still fit that color palette without leaning heavily into the obvious, and that's how I landed on lychees. Lychees were such a staple fruit in my household growing up. They're one of those things that instantly take me back. Family gatherings, grocery trips with my grandma, having a bowl of the fruit on the counter that you just snack on throughout the day. So this theme kind of feels like a little nod to my upbringing while still keeping things soft and romantic for February. Lychees are such an interesting fruit to draw because they're not smooth, they're bumpy and textured. So I leaned into that by using small rounded dots, almost like exaggerated stippling instead of clean lines. I think it actually works better without a black outline because it keeps everything looking soft and organic. Plus, it just saves me so much time not having to outline every single thing. So you'll see here right now that I'm just trying to give the lychees its bumpy textures by adding layers and layers of dots on top of each other, slowly going darker and darker in color, making sure I let the pale yellow foundation shine through on parts that I want to be the highlight of the lychee. For the leafage, I'm keeping it pretty simple to let the lychee shine. So I'm just starting with a nice muted green, and then I'll go back in with something a little bit more vibrant to still keep it pretty lively. For the lettering, I kept it simple by just abbreviating the month in the deep muted red. I tried to use a font that was bold enough to anchor the page, but still harmonious with the artwork. So I found this beautiful font on Pinterest called Mosca La Roque. I thought it was the perfect font that gave it that bold statement for the cover page, while also giving an organic touch to complement the lychees. And to wrap it all together nicely, I'm just adding in some quick grid details. On the opposite page, I added a quote, "Let sweetness be enough." I love this quote for February because it feels like a gentle reminder that not everything has to be intense or dramatic or productive. Sometimes it's okay to just enjoy what's sweet and what's simple and what feels nourishing. I cut this page pretty minimal with just a few petals and light grid textures in the background. I didn't want it to compete with the cover page, more just support it. And I think this spread definitely sets the tone for the rest of the month. With my introduction to my month all finished, we can move forward to the calendar spread. For my February calendar, I wanted something structured but still decorative. I was inspired by Katosi.Journal spread, that uses a 2-column setup for whatever you need on the right side of the page and a normal calendar on the left side, which helps me visualize where the days are in the calendar while also listing out what I needed without worrying about the constraint on space. While adding the same lychee design to this spread to keep it all consistent, I also added some subtle floral elements here and there to help tie it all back together. February is a shorter month, so I like my calendar spread to feel open and not too cramped. February is also a really transitional month for me personally. A little snippet into my life. Right now, I'm in the middle of moving from one apartment to a slightly bigger one, which is exciting, but also pretty stressful. My days have been filled with packing boxes, trying to sort through everything I own, and balancing that weird emotional mix of feeling ready for a fresh start while also just feeling overwhelmed by how much there is to do. So this bullet journal setup felt really meaningful. I think that's why I leaned into such a gentle theme this month. With everything feeling a little chaotic in real life, I wanted my journal to be a place that still feels soft and comforting. Almost like a reminder to slow down and find little moments of sweetness even in the middle of stress. This February isn't necessarily about doing the most, it's more about settling into change, taking things one step at a time, and letting this new season of life unfold. This was also another place where I really felt the difference of using black outlines. Everything blends together more gently, and the colors feel like they're working together instead of being separated by harsh lines. The spread took a bit more patience than usual, but I think the end result feels calm and balanced, which is exactly what I want from the calendar page. Next up is the Habit and Mood Tracker, and this might be one of my favorite spreads this month. I was inspired by a layout made by Ivana Journals on Instagram. I loved the simplicity of the habits laid out in 4 framed sections while also keeping a vibrant and colorful spread. I really like this layout because it feels organized without being overwhelming. So right now, I'm just starting off with coloring in the frames with a basic brown color. Nothing too fancy or overdone is necessary because later on, I'm going to add that gingham background, and it really helps the layout truly shine and really become a big part of the lychee theme. For that gingham background, it was slightly stressful. Looking back at it now, I'm thinking it probably would have been a smarter move to do the background first and then color the foreground elements on top, because now I'm slightly struggling trying to make this background happen around my already existing elements and try not to color somewhere I'm not supposed to. Luckily, however, I'm working with a Tombow brush pen, which is pretty light in consistency. So even when I might color over a frame or a flower, you would barely even see it because the markers I used for the foreground elements are a lot more saturated and stronger in ink. I'm keeping my habits fairly simple and straightforward this month. With everything that's been going on and even more down the line, I fear I don't have the time or energy to really enforce a new habit at the moment. So I'm just keeping it to my 4 basics that I know I can easily fulfill. For the mood tracker, I continued the lychee theme by using little lychee shapes that I can color in throughout the month. You guys should really be proud of me here. I could have easily outlined the lychees in my typical black outliner, But I decided to go with this deep red marker that I had instead that I've been using throughout my previous spreads. I feel that it really helps keep the lychee's color vibrancy no matter what shade of red I might color it in. I also kept the color palette pretty cohesive here, mostly pinks, reds, and soft neutrals. Even when I add darker shades later in the month to represent my not so happy days, hopefully not, everything will still feel like it belongs together. This spread is very functional, but it still feels playful, which is kind of my sweet spot when it comes to bullet journaling. Doing this layout really made me miss making these types of mood trackers. I haven't done a mood tracker like this in the last couple of months because I thought it would save me some time with one less layout to worry about and just track it in a more weekly sense, which it did, and it was productive in its own way. But I really did miss making these types of mood trackers where it allows me to create a little bit of art every day. Something as simple as coloring in a lychee to show that you had a pretty happy day is what makes bullet journaling so enjoyable, at least for me. So I think I want to return to making more layouts like these where the intent is just pure fun and creativity all around. With the trackers done, it's time to move on to the last spread, which includes the monthly mood board and playlist. I'm starting to really like making these monthly mood boards where I basically make a collage of the overall vibe I wanted to take February for my bullet journal. The first box is a drawing of a lychee tea, which is such an underrated tea flavor, by the way, so please try it out if you haven't already. I wanted to include something that really showed off a lot of movement to make the layout feel really alive. So I'm making sure to really highlight the movement of the tea and add some accent droplets and leaves here and there while making sure to keep with the overall warm color palette. Also, if you can't tell, that spherical thing in the glass is an unwrapped lychee, in case that wasn't clear. The next box is the main character, obviously. I think around this point was when I started to get a little bit tired of coloring these lychees so many times. Makes me think if you guys are just as tired as watching me color these things. That's the hardest thing about choosing a theme. You want to choose something that you want to really love to draw and explore consistently for a month. Once you start losing interest in your theme subject, then it stops being fun for you, and that's never the goal for bullet journaling. It's supposed to enhance your everyday planning and make it all custom to you, and that starts with you loving what you're using. So if you don't like the theme of your month or it doesn't excite you, it's probably not the best idea to commit to it for the next 4 to 5 weeks. And believe me, I've 100% been there. Take this month, for example. I was in the middle of my koi fish theme for last month, and I was loving it for a while, but then I started brainstorming what to do for February's theme and came up with lychees. And I was so ecstatic about it that it kind of made me lose excitement for my current theme in January, which was really heartbreaking because finishing off that month really felt like a chore to do. And bullet journaling should never feel that way. So it is something I'm currently working on for myself, and if you guys ever want tips on choosing a bullet journal theme or anything at all you want to learn more about, whether about me or what I know or think I know about bullet journaling, just comment below and you may see a YouTube video about it soon. For these last two elements of the mood board, I'm dedicating one space for the cherry blossom branch. Somewhere down the line of brainstorming about this theme, I just thought it would be a nice touch to add cherry blossoms as my accents to my lychees. I thought it would be a nice organic addition while also being small and dainty enough to not overshadow our main subject. Also, they're pink, which is just the cherry blossom on top. For the last subject, I just thought it would be cute if I just drew an adorably single lychee with a derpy smile to add to the playful and lightheartedness of the theme. I haven't come up with a name for him or her yet, so if you have any ideas, please comment them down below. On the playlist page, I kept the design super clean. I chose another font that kind of ties back to the font from the cover page. If you want to use it, I believe it was called Sago on Pinterest. I love using these types of fonts because it's basic enough to hold an impact as the title heading, but it also has that subtle playfulness to it that adds a layer of softness that ties in well to the theme. I used soft pink bars for each song, almost like little buttons, and added tiny icons to give it that music player feel. If you haven't seen my list of song choices for the month yet, I have been listening to a lot of songs from the Arcane series soundtrack lately after finally watching season 2. Their soundtrack is honestly unmatched, and these are just a few of my favorites. And of course, I had to add a touch of Sam Smith in there because why not? Fun fact actually, it was a song that was played on repeat during a breakup that I was going through a while back, and it recently resurfaced for me, and now it's just a really good song. It's nice when something that has been related to something so dark and hopeless for you now just becomes a distant memory that doesn't ruin a good song. Overall, I'm really happy with how this February setup turned out. If you enjoyed this setup or felt inspired by the lychee theme, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and TikTok. And let me know what theme you've chosen for February. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.